A very good day to the honorable panel of judges. My name is Kelyndra Jasmine and I'm a student from SMK Convent Ipoh. I'm here today because I'm going to be presenting about one of my favorite books that was written by a very famous English author. The book is entitled Oliver Twist, or also known as The Parish Boy's Progress, and it was written by Charles Dickens. Now, before I delve into the book, I feel that we should look into the author's background first. Charles Dickens was a very famous writer in the Victorian era and was born on the 7th of February in 1812. You see, Charles Dickens was very aware of the poverty in London at that time, as he himself was a child worker after his father was sent to prison because of debt. Charles Dickens had a lot of appreciation of the endurance of the needy people towards the austerities that they faced, and it was very evident in his books as he wrote about how hard life was in the Victorian times. Of all his incredible works, I've decided to talk about Oliver Twist because I feel that the youth can learn so much by reading this book and following the hardships that Oliver had to endure. You see, Oliver was one of those unfortunate children at that time to be born into a life of poverty. He was raised in an orphanage where he spent the first 9 years of his life with very little food and barely any comforts. On his ninth birthday, the parish beadle, Mr. Bumble, puts Oliver in a workhouse where he is once again faced with malnutrition. This leads Oliver's desperate and hungry peers to draw lots and then to elect Oliver to ask for a second helping of food. Of course, when he does, a great uproar ensues, and the board of well-fed gentlemen try to sell Oliver off as a chimney sweeper. And when this fails, Oliver is sent to work as an apprentice to an undertaker. Eventually, after suffering mistreatment from the undertaker's wife and apprentice, Oliver runs away to London, where he finds himself in the company of pickpockets. The pickpockets give Oliver food and a place to sleep. Unbeknownst to him, Oliver naively joins their way of lifestyle. One day, Oliver goes out with two other pickpockets, the Artful Dodger, who took Oliver under his wing when he first arrived to London, and Charlie Bates. Oliver thinks that they were going to make handkerchiefs, but soon realizes that this isn't the case, as he sees his friends stealing from an elderly gentleman who is none other than Mr. Brownlow. The thieves flee, leaving Oliver. The elderly gentleman soon realizes what happens and sees Oliver, who runs away in fear. Mr. Brownlow is able to capture Oliver and brings him to a magistrate, but he soon rethinks his decision as he sees Oliver's characteristics as someone who is naive and innocent, and he brings him under his care. Now Oliver's fate has changed as he now has a guardian. Mr. Brownlow's influence on Oliver is extremely positive as he turns Oliver into a better person who now likes to read. I really enjoyed the book because of the central theme of good versus evil. And I know this may be a bit cliche for some people, but for me, it teaches us that as individuals, we should strive to endure the hardships of life to triumph against the seduction of evil deeds. For instance, we see Oliver abused, neglected, and mistreated all of his life, yet he would be absolutely horrified with the idea of putting someone else in harm's way. We see purity in a corrupt society as we see Oliver with his dear dying friend Dick, who wishes him well with God's blessing. Oliver, who is moved by this gesture, becomes immensely loyal and devoted to his dear friend, and this shows the purity of the two boys' friendship. Dickens also writes about poverty and social class. He shows us that society treats poor people the worst, as we see the workhouse's failure to take care of the poor orphans that were entrusted to them. In fact, it feeds them so little that many of them simply waste away to become sick and then die. In reference to the current century, we are very aware of the fact that children have the right to acquire proper education and care, but this wasn't the case with Oliver, as he was forced to work because he was an orphan. We also read that when Oliver joined the gang of pickpockets, he was forced to steal, and it is still relevant today as many children are forced into gangs and are committing crimes as they are desperate to help their families to survive. There are still many places today where they still take advantage of these innocent orphans, and that is what I feel attracted me to the story in the first place. It shows us how faultless children are being taken advantage of when they were supposed to be taken care of by their parents, relatives, or even the government. I personally would recommend the book to everyone my age because, in my opinion, it isn't as dark as the other books that Dickens has written, and I feel that it would be a great introduction if you wanted to start reading his books. It is also a really great book with a lot of great values, and it really opens your eyes towards the obstacles that poor people have to endure. Thank you.